where envoys from France, Germany, Norway, the UK, the US, the EU, and the UN have met with Sudan's Prime Minister Abdalla Hamdok at his residence in Khartoum. The envoys say they found Hamdok in good health. The Prime Minister is under house arrest following a military coup on Monday. The United Nations has called for a return to the transition process and the immediate release of all those arbitrarily detained. Meanwhile, Sudan's armed forces chief General Burhan has sacked 6 ambassadors, including those from the US, France, and the EU, after they condemned the military's takeover of government. International pressure against this week's coup is growing. Security forces have tightened their crackdown on pro-democracy protesters. We're now joined on the phone by CGTN's Naba Mukhidin, who is in Khartoum, and Amira Sayed, political analyst, Egyptian Gazette, based in Cairo. Hi again, Naba. Thank you, first of all, to both of you for being on the program. Hi again, Naba. Let's begin with you. Parallel diplomatic meetings seem to be going on in the capital, Khartoum. We've heard about the military government meeting Saudi diplomats and the Prime Minister meeting Western envoys. What more can you tell us about this?
General Burhan have met the Saudi Arabia ambassador yesterday in his office to discuss about the recent developments of the political crisis. And the ambassador expressed his country's interest in solving this political crisis and the growing tension between the counterparts. And while Hamdok have met some of the U.S. and AU and some of EU envoys in his house, but he didn't make any statement or comment about that. But due to the Ministry of Information, they said that the Prime Minister is calling on the protesters to make peaceful protests and peaceful and civilian means of protesting, and called on the protesters to take their way to take their way for democracy, and call for just peaceful protests. This is due to the Minister of Information. But the Prime Minister himself, he didn't make any comment after meeting the U.S. and EU envoys. And he also, there is some news that he received some phone calls from Blinken talking about the current political situation. And there is also some news about an awaited discussions, an awaited roundtable to solve this rising political crisis between the military generals and civilian leaders.
Now, but what is the latest on the reported firing of several Sudanese diplomats accredited to key countries, including the U.S. and the UN?
Yes, actually, 12 ambassadors condemned what's so-called a military takeover, and they said they will never hand over the embassies to any new ambassadors appointed by the coup authorities, due to what they said. There is some news that 6 ambassadors were fired, including Washington ambassador, Paris ambassador, Geneva, Belgium, and Qatar. Right now, the new appointed ambassadors, the names were not really revealed, but the 12 ambassadors who condemned the takeover, they said they will not hand over the embassies. So it's a diplomatic crisis among this political crisis growing in Sudan.
Now, but what is the security situation across the country, especially in Khartoum, where you are ahead of the planned opposition protests, which we're being told could be held on Saturday?
The streets are still blocked by barricades, despite the security forces trying to remove it and opening the bridges and opening some hospitals and getting life to normal. But it's still the barricades are there. Protesters are protesting in the streets and making night protests to promote for Saturday 1 million person march due to what they said. The SPA, which is the umbrella body that joins some unions like doctors' unions, pharmacists, pilots' unions, are calling more bodies to join the strike and the civil disobedience. Right now, the security situation in Sudan is still fragile. The military, security and intelligence, all of the uniformed forces are trying to remove barricades. There is some news that there is new arrest among the political opponents, including some ministers and including some members of empowerment committee, which was resolved by the military general Abdalla Burhan. There is news about arrests among protesters, among activists. People now are fearing the security situation, and life is not normal yet in Khartoum.
Thank you so much for all that, Naba. Naba Muhyiddin, she was speaking to us from Khartoum. Let's bring in Amira Sayed, who's a political analyst at the Egyptian Gazette based in Cairo. Hi, Amira. Let's bring you into this conversation. It appears that Sudan's military government is reaching out to Saudi Arabia. What assistance can that country offer Sudan?
So actually, the Sudanese military and civilian leaders, they were like they have been in a fragile power sharing agreement that was signed in 2019. So after the recent military coup that has received many negative reactions and international condemnations, the Arab countries, they are trying to avoid escalation. If we go through the press statements released by foreign affairs ministers in, for example, in Egypt stressed that it follows up the recent development with concern, and also said that the national security of Sudan is part and parcel of the Egyptian national security. Bahrain also called for self-control and avoid escalation. Jordan, they said that we have to raise the national interest above the personal interest. Regarding Saudi Arabia in particular, actually Saudi Arabia, it has like close ties with Sudan before this military coup. For example, Saudi Arabia tried to remove Sudan from the list of terror countries. It also played a vital role in decreasing the deaths over Sudan in order to like breathe new life into the Sudanese economy. So Saudi Arabia is trying to bring stability and to make the calm back to Sudan, especially that the economic consequences of such military coup, it will put the Sudanese economy in dire straits. Recently, we have seen that the World Bank, for example, they announced that they will suspend their aid to Sudan, though Sudan managed to get access to billions of dollars for the first time in 30 years. Also, the US announced that it will suspend like $700 million. Also, the African Union announced that it will suspend the activities of Sudan until the civilian government is reinstated. So Saudi Arabia is trying to to find a solution through dialogue in order to we have to curb the negative economic consequences that will Sudan face in the upcoming period.
Amira, let's talk a little bit about Qatar. It's been reported that Sudan has recalled its ambassador to Qatar. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, actually, Sudan, around 6 ambassadors have been sacked, including Qatar, US, China, and the EU also representative. On the other hand, as I mentioned, that Saudi Arabia, it was in close ties with Sudan. On the other hand, we have seen that there has been a tension between Qatar and Sudan even before the power sharing agreement, because Qatar was supporting the Muslim Brotherhood in Sudan, who were supported by the long-time ruler Omar al-Bashir. Though after the power sharing agreement, though Qatar tried to restore the diplomatic ties with Sudan and maintain diplomatic ties with this country. For example, Qatar sent a congratulatory letter to Al-Burhan, but there is still we can say the ties were not normal, and this also has been crystal clear because earlier also the Sudanese ambassador was recalled from the Qatari ambassador was recalled from Sudan. So we have seen there is a difference between the approach of Saudi Arabia and its ties with Sudan, and also Qatar ties with Sudan. And if we highlight the press release that was issued by Qatar Foreign Affairs Ministry, they said that they are following up with concern the recent developments in Sudan. And last September, when there was another military coup attempt that was foiled, Qatar was against such military coup. So now definitely Al-Burhan, he has a certain stance against Qatar because Qatar previously condemned the attempt of military coup. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Amira. Amira Sayed, political analyst at the Egyptian Gazette, which is based in Cairo.